Andrew pushed the bedroom door open and froze. His wife, Sarah, was sitting on the edge of their bed. Her back was bolt upright, her hands folded on her knees. She was wearing that beige dress she only wore for important meetings. Her hair was styled, her makeup subtle. It was 6 o'clock in the morning on a Monday, but that wasn't the worst part. Next to her, on the snow-white bedsheet, lay a neat stack of laundry. His things, the shirt he had worn on Friday, socks, the belt, and the boxer shorts. The very shorts in which he had driven to Chloe's for the weekend. All the items were washed, ironed, and folded with almost clinical precision. And on top, right on the stack, lay a mobile phone. A cheap Nokia burner phone he thought was safely hidden in the garage. "Good morning," Sarah said. Her voice was emotionless, as steady as a news anchor reporting on the current stock market prices. Andrew felt his mouth go dry. He was still holding the shoes he had taken off in the hallway to avoid making noise. Fragments of thoughts raced through his head, but none formed a whole picture. "Sarah, haven't you slept?" he wheezed out. A stupid, obvious question, but he couldn't think of anything better. Sarah slowly raised her gaze. Her look was so calm that Andrew wanted to turn around and leave immediately. "How was I supposed to sleep?" she said, pausing, "when my husband spends 3 days with another woman?" He opened his mouth, closed it again, then opened it once more. "What are you talking about?" "I told you, Michael and I went fishing." "Andrew," she interrupted him quietly. "Please stop." She took the burner phone from the laundry stack and handed it to him. "Turn it on." "What kind of phone is this? Where did you get this?" "Turn it on," Sarah repeated. "Code 0307. March 7th. Our wedding anniversary, 22 years ago." Andrew took the phone, his hands trembling betrayingly. He entered the code, and the screen came to life with a dull green light. There was a single message from Michael, his best friend. "Andy, I covered for you, but don't ask me again. I'm embarrassed to lie to Sarah. She is a great woman, and you know that yourself." The message had been sent on Sunday evening. "Hello, I'm Sarah. On this channel, I present to you the courageous, real-life stories of women. Please note, in all the stories you'll hear, names have been changed and visuals have been created to respect privacy. If you'd like to share your story and inspire other women, you can reach us through the channel's About section. I would be honored to be your voice. Now, I invite you to listen to the story of a woman who found the strength to stand tall, despite life's challenges. Andrew slowly raised his eyes to his wife. This isn't what you think. What is it then?" Sarah tilted her head. "Explain it to me. I really want to understand." Her voice sounded so sincere, so open, that for a moment he thought maybe he could still save this. Maybe if he chose the right words. "Chloe and I," he began, then fell silent because Sarah was smiling. Not maliciously, not hysterically. She simply smiled sadly and somewhat distantly. "Chloe Brand, 34 years old," she said, as if reading from a file. "Sales manager at your company, divorced, no children. Rents an apartment on Garden Street, number 12, apartment 47. On Friday evening, you arrived at her place around 7. On Saturday afternoon, you were at the Riverside Grill. You ordered duck and Chardonnay. The waitress was named Elena. She is pregnant, 5 months along. On Sunday, you didn't leave the apartment until evening." Andrew felt a cold shiver run down his spine. "You had me followed." Sarah stood up from the bed, went to the dresser, and opened the top drawer. She pulled out a thick black folder with a rubber band. 3 months, she said. "I watched you for 3 months." She placed the folder next to the laundry stack on the bed and opened it. Photos. Dozens of photos. Him with Chloe in the parking lot in front of her building. Them hugging. Him kissing her neck. Them entering the stairwell. Him getting out of the car with a bouquet of flowers. Red roses, 7 of them. He remembered because Chloe had said that was her lucky number. Them sitting in that Riverside Grill. She is laughing. He is looking at her in a way he hadn't looked at Sarah in a long time. Every photo had the date and time stamped on it. To the minute. How did you do this?" croaked Andrew. "Private detective," Sarah answered calmly. "His name is John Peterson. A former police officer, very professional and, by the way, not expensive. She flipped through some photos. Underneath lay printouts of chat messages. His correspondence with Chloe. I miss you until tomorrow. I can't wait. Sarah is at her mother's. I'm free until evening. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. Every message was his death sentence. I mean, can you even imagine that level of preparation? What would you have done if you found a folder like that? Let me know in the comments. Where did you get this? Stammered Andrew. Sarah looked at him almost with pity. Your phone password. Our daughter's birthday. 4 digits. Very original. She closed the folder. I copied the entire correspondence 2 months ago when you left your phone in the kitchen again and went to shower. Andrew sank onto the edge of the bed. His legs gave way. His temples were throbbing so loudly he could barely hear his own thoughts. Sarah, he began, I can explain everything. It's just. It means nothing. I was confused, a midlife crisis. You know how hard it is at work. Hard, she repeated. Yes, of course. Hard. She went to the dresser again, opened the second drawer, and pulled out another, thicker folder. Do you know what I did during these 3 months while you were working so hard? Andrew remained silent. I looked for a lawyer, a good, experienced one. I found him. His name is Dr. Julian K. Wagner. He specializes in divorces, 28 years of practice, 90% of cases won. She placed the second folder next to the first. I met him 4 times. We created a complete inventory of our assets. The house, the 2 cars, the vacation home, the bank accounts, everything. Andrew felt something tighten in his chest. You want a divorce? I do. Sarah thought for a moment. No, I didn't want it. I wanted you to stay, for you to remember that we have a daughter, that we have shared years, that we built this house together when we had nothing but debts and faith in each other. She sat down on the edge of the bed, not next to him, but on the opposite side, as if an abyss lay between them. I wanted you to stop it yourself. That's why I waited 3 months. Every day I thought, maybe he'll realize it today. Maybe he'll come back today. For the first time that morning, there was something alive in her voice. Pain? Real, deep pain. But you didn't come back. You didn't even try. Andrew reached his hand out to her, but she recoiled. Stop it, Sarah. I'm sorry. I was an idiot. You were honest, she interrupted him. Honest to everyone except me. You were honest with Chloe. You were honest with Michael. You were even more honest with that detective than with me, because you didn't hide from him where you were going and what you were doing. She stood up and went to the window. Outside, it was just beginning to dawn. A gray, gloomy Monday morning. Do you know what is the most hurtful thing? She asked without turning around. Not that you cheated. Not that you lied. But that you thought I was blind and stupid. I never thought you were stupid, Andrew said quietly. Sarah turned around, and in her eyes lay a rage so cold he involuntarily flinched. Then why didn't you even make an effort to cover your tracks? Why did you leave the phone lying around with the same password? Why did you invent those silly excuses about fishing when you don't even own a fishing rod? She took a step toward him. I'll tell you why. Because you thought. Sarah will put up with it. She is a homemaker. She won't go anywhere. 22 years together. That's stable. She won't dare. Andrew remained silent, for it was the truth. That was exactly what he had thought. And now here you stand, Sarah continued, standing before me in your socks, your suitcase and the car stinking of another woman's perfume, wondering, how do I talk my way out of this now? What do I say? How do I fix everything? She came so close he could smell her scent, that light perfume with jasmine notes he had once given her for their anniversary. But nothing will ever be like it was before, Andrew. Never. What will you do? He asked. His voice trembled. Sarah looked at her watch. In 2 hours, I have an appointment with Dr. Wagner. We are filing for divorce. You will be present at this meeting, she continued, ignoring his words, because otherwise everything will be decided without you. And believe me, you won't like that. She took his shirt from the laundry stack and handed it to him. Get changed, wash up, get ready. You have 30 minutes. And then what? Sarah smiled that same strange, distant smile. Then you will find out what I have prepared for you and for her. For Chloe. For both of you. She left the bedroom and closed the door with such composure, as if she were just going into the kitchen to prepare breakfast. Andrew remained standing in the middle of the room with the shirt in his hand, and for the first time in their years together, he felt fear. Real, clammy, cold fear, for the woman who had just left the room was a stranger to him. 25 minutes later, Andrew came down the stairs. He had showered, shaved, and put on a clean shirt and pants. In the mirror, a man had looked back at him who appeared decent but felt internally shattered. Sarah was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee. Her laptop was open in front of her on a page with spreadsheets. She was typing something, her forehead furrowed in concentration. "Sit down," she said without looking up. "Coffee is ready." Andrew poured himself coffee and sat opposite her. The silence was so thick you could cut it with a knife. "Sarah," he began, "let's talk reasonably." She looked up from the screen. "Talk. I am to blame. I understand everything, but let's not rush things. 22 years, that's not a joke. We have a daughter, we have a house. We have nothing," she interrupted him quietly. "You have a mistress. I have a lawyer. That is what we have." Andrew gripped his cup so tightly his knuckles turned white. "Are you punishing me?" "No, I am protecting myself. There is a difference." She closed the laptop and took a sip of coffee. "Did you ever wonder why I stayed silent all those months?" Andrew blinked. "What do you mean?" "I knew about Chloe for a long time. Not 3 months. Almost a year." He froze. "How? How did you find out?" Sarah smiled mockingly. "One day you came home and said you had worked late. You were quite satisfied, relaxed, and smelled of a woman's perfume that wasn't mine. I memorized that scent. Sweet, heavy, not my style." She put the cup on the table. "A week later, I came to your office, wanted to surprise you, brought you lunch, and in the waiting area sat her, Chloe, and she smelled of the same perfume. I didn't make a scene," Sarah continued. "I didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't smash any dishes. I simply turned around and left. And then I started thinking, what now? How do I go on living? And it became clear to me, either I close my eyes and tolerate it, or I gather evidence and leave in such a way that you will never forget it." She looked directly at him. "I chose the latter." Andrew leaned back in his chair. "That means the whole year you bottled up anger?" "No, I prepared myself. I consulted with lawyers, checked our accounts, transferred money to a separate account you know nothing about, collected evidence, talked to our daughter, to Kate." Andrew jumped up. "You involved Kate?" Sarah didn't flinch. "I told her the truth 4 months ago. She had a right to know why we are getting divorced. She knows everything." "And do you know what she said?" Andrew was silent. "She said, 'Mom, I figured it out a long time ago. Dad has changed. He has become a stranger to me. And she also said that she will support me in any decision.'" It hit him like a blow to the stomach. "Kate, my daughter." "Our daughter," Sarah corrected. "And she is not a child anymore. She is 21 years old. She is an adult, and she saw how you lied to me, how you came home and pretended everything was normal, how you supposedly went fishing and came back without a single mosquito bite." Sarah stood up and went to the window. "Do you know what the worst thing about infidelity is? Not the act itself, but that you force everyone around you to pretend, to act as if they don't notice, as if they believe you, as if everything is fine. You make them accomplices to your lie." She turned around. "But I will no longer be an accomplice." Andrews stepped toward her. "Sarah, give me a chance. I'll break up with her immediately, right before your eyes. I'll call her and tell her it's over." Sarah shook her head. "You don't understand. It's not about Chloe. It's about the fact that you are capable of it. And that means you will do it again, with her or with another, in a year or in 2. But you will do it." "No, I swear to you." "Your oaths are worth nothing," she interrupted him. "You swore faithfulness to me 22 years ago. Remember?" She took the car keys from the table. "Come, we have to go." "Where are we going?" "To the lawyer." "I told you." Sarah turned around so abruptly that he took a step back. "Andrew, you have 2 options. First, you come voluntarily. We discuss everything in a civilized manner, and the divorce proceeds peacefully. Second, you refuse, and then I do everything through the court with a public hearing, with witnesses, with Chloe being summoned, with your colleagues knowing about your affair, with Kate testifying in my favor." She paused. "Choose." Andrew knew he had no choice. "Fine, let's go." The drive passed in complete silence. Sarah drove calmly, confidently, as if they were just running errands. Andrew sat in the passenger seat trying to think of what to say, how to bring the situation back under control, but he could think of nothing. They stopped in front of a gray office building downtown. A sign, "Legal Services." "Come," said Sarah. They went to the third floor. Sarah knocked on the door of office 307. "Come in," a deep male voice sounded. Behind a massive desk sat a man around 60. Gray hair, well-groomed beard, sharp suit. He rose to greet her. "Mrs. Roth, good day. Come in." "Dr. Wagner." Sarah shook his hand. "This is my husband, Andrew." The lawyer nodded to Andrew. "Take a seat." They sat down. Dr. Wagner took a folder out of the desk drawer, the same one Andrew had seen in the morning. "So, the lawyer began. We are here to discuss the terms for the dissolution of your marriage. I have a complete picture of your joint assets." He opened the folder and began to list them. The house on Forest Street, 2,000 square feet of living space, estimated value $900,000. The vacation home in Pine Ridge, estimated value $220,000. The Audi A4, year 2020, estimated value $27,000. The VW Tiguan, year 2021, estimated value $33,000. Andrew listened and felt the panic rising. Furthermore, the lawyer continued, there are joint savings amounting to $320,000. He closed the folder and looked at Andrew. According to the law, all assets acquired during the marriage are split equally. However, there are nuances. "Which ones?" asked Andrew hoarsely. Dr. Wagner folded his hands on the table. "The house. It was bought with funds from Mrs. Roth. Her father left her an inheritance 25 years ago. With this money, the down payment was made. The rest was paid from the joint budget. But the initial down payment amounted to 60% of the value." Andrew felt the ground being pulled out from under his feet. "That means the house stays with her?" "Not entirely. But Mrs. Roth is entitled to the larger share. Let's say 70-30 in her favor." The lawyer handed Andrew a document. "Here is the calculation." Andrew scanned the numbers and understood. If the house were sold, he would be left with only pocket change, while Sarah received the lion's share. "But can't we come to an agreement?" he asked, looking at his wife. "Not to sell the house. I move out, you stay, and we." "No," said Sarah firmly. "The house will be sold. I don't want to live where every corner reminds me of your lies." The lawyer cleared his throat. "There is also the question of spousal support." "Support?" asked Andrew incredulously. "Kate is an adult. It is not about the child," explained Dr. Wagner calmly. "It is about spousal support. Mrs. Roth has not worked for the last 15 years. She took care of the house, raised your daughter, managed your household. Essentially, she sacrificed a career for the benefit of the family and is now entitled to compensation." Andrew began to boil internally. "That means I have to pay her too?" "Yes," nodded Sarah. "You will pay me 20% of your income for a period of 3 years. That is legal and fair." Andrew jumped up. "Fair? You take the house, the car, the money, and want me to pay you as well." Dr. Wagner raised his hand. "Young man, calm down. You created this situation yourself. Infidelity is grounds for divorce, and the court will be on your wife's side." Andrew turned to Sarah. "Do you really want to destroy me?" She looked at him without a trace of emotion. "I want justice. You are getting exactly what you deserve." At that moment, the office door opened and Chloe appeared in the threshold. Chloe stood in the office doorway in a short beige coat, a confused look on her face. Her hair was down, her makeup slightly smeared as if she had been crying. She clutched her handbag so tightly her knuckles stood out white. "Excuse me, she began and faltered when she saw Andrew. "Andrew, what are you doing here?" Andrew couldn't get a word out. He looked at her, then Sarah, then back at Chloe. Dr. Wagner rose from the desk. Chloe Brand, come in. We have been waiting for you. Waiting? Asked Chloe. Her voice trembled. But I don't understand. I was called and told it was urgent. It concerned work. Andrew was in trouble and needed my help. She looked at Andrew pleadingly. What is going on here? Sarah stood up slowly and smoothly and turned to Chloe with a smile so icy that Chloe stepped back. Good day, Chloe. I am Sarah, Andrew's wife. Chloe turned pale. I didn't. Stop, Sarah interrupted gently. You don't need to lie. We all know the truth here. Sit down. Chloe shook her head. No, I shouldn't be here. This is a misunderstanding. Sit down, repeated Sarah, and there was steel in her voice. Chloe sank onto the chair by the door. She looked as if she wanted to sink into the floor. Andrew finally found his voice. Sarah, you invited her. Why? Because she is also part of this story, answered Sarah calmly, and has a right to know the truth. The whole truth. She went to the lawyer's desk and took another folder, a thin red one. Chloe, she turned to her husband's mistress. Tell me, what do you know about Andrew? Chloe huddled in her chair. I don't have to tell you anything. Fair enough, nodded Sarah. Then I will tell you. She opened the red folder. Andrew told you that we only live together because of our daughter, that I am cold, indifferent, that our marriage has long been dead. Chloe remained silent, but her eyes gave everything away. That's how it is, smiled Sarah mockingly. Classic. He also told you he would file for divorce as soon as Kate finishes her studies because he doesn't want to traumatize the child. Chloe swallowed. How do you know? Because he told me the same thing 22 years ago. Sarah placed a photo in front of her. Look. Chloe took the photo with trembling fingers. It showed a young Andrew, perhaps 25, hugging an unknown blonde in front of a cafe entrance. That was 20 years ago, explained Sarah. Her name was Megan. She worked in our company. Back then, we were just building our business. Kate was still very small, 1 year old. Andrew gripped the table. Sarah, stop. Be quiet, she interrupted him, and he fell silent. Sarah took more photos from the folder and laid them out before Chloe. That was Megan, and this is Savannah. That was 10 years ago. And this is Natalie, 8 years ago. And another one, Elena, 7 years ago. Chloe looked at the photos. Her face became paler and paler. He told them all the same thing, continued Sarah. That I am a bad wife, that he is unhappy in the marriage, that he will get a divorce as soon as the financial questions are resolved, or as soon as the daughter is grown, or as soon as an important project in the company is finished. She leaned toward Chloe. You thought you were something special, that with you it was true love? Chloe looked at Andrew. In her eyes lay pain, anger, and betrayal. Is that true? She whispered. Andrew tried to say something, but the words stuck in his throat. Answer her, demanded Sarah. She deserves honesty, unlike me, apparently. Chloe, It's not like that, began Andrew. Not like that. Chloe jumped up. Her voice cracked. So you didn't tell me that your wife doesn't understand you, that you live like strangers, that you will file for divorce in 6 months? Andrew remained silent. I separated from my husband for you, screamed Chloe. I got divorced. I lost the house, the money, everything because I believed you, because you swore we would be together. Tears ran down her face, smearing her mascara. And you just used me. Sarah handed her a tissue. That is why I invited you here, so you learn who you got involved with before it is too late. Chloe grabbed the tissue and wiped her face. Her hands were shaking. Before it is too late? She laughed bitterly. I lost 3 years of my life. 3 years. She turned to Andrew. You said you love me, that I am the only one, that you have never been so happy. Chloe, he tried to interject. Shut up, she exploded. Just shut up. I don't want to hear your voice anymore. She threw the tissue in his face and stormed out of the office. The door slammed so hard the windows vibrated. Silence returned. Andrew sank slowly onto the chair. He felt drained, empty. Sarah returned to her seat. Her face was calm, almost detached. Why did you do that? Asked Andrew hoarsely. Why did you humiliate her? Honestly, was this a step too far, or did Chloe deserve to know the truth in the most brutal way possible? I'm genuinely torn on this one. What do you guys think? Sarah looked at him as if he had said something incredibly stupid. Humiliated? I saved her. She wasted 3 years on you. If I had remained silent, she would have wasted another 3 or 6 or 10 years until she realized herself that you will never get a divorce because it is convenient for you to have both a family and a mistress. Andrew covered his face with his hands. You are a monster. No, replied Sarah. You are the monster. I am just holding up the mirror. Dr. Wagner cleared his throat discreetly. I think we can proceed. We still have many points to clarify. Sarah nodded. Yes, let's proceed. The lawyer pulled out a new document. So, besides the asset division, there is one more point. Your business. Andrew looked up. What business? The company Alpha Logistics, explained Dr. Wagner. You're a co-founder and hold 40% of the shares. The remaining 60% belong to your partner, Ian Schultz. And, asked Andrew suspiciously. Well, Sarah intervened. According to the documents, this company was founded 20 years ago. At that time, we had been married for 2 years, and the starting capital for founding the company came from the joint budget. Andrew went cold. You want to sue for a part of the company? Not a part, answered Sarah calmly. Half of your shares, meaning 20%, because the business was founded with joint money while I was at home with our child watching her back. That is impossible, screamed Andrew. Ian will never agree. He needs no outsiders in the business. Sarah pulled out her phone and dialed a number. She put it on speaker. After 3 rings, a deep male voice answered. Hello, Sarah. Hello, Ian. Are you alone? Yes, I'm in the office. What's up? Nothing bad. I just wanted to ask. Did you receive my offer to buy Andrew's shares in the company? Andrew froze. I got it, answered Ian. And I agree. 20% for $600,000. That is a fair price. When do we sign the contract? Tomorrow, answered Sarah. Thank you, Ian. She ended the call and looked at her husband. As you can see, Ian is not opposed. Moreover, he is happy because I offered him to buy your share completely for $950,000. And the 20% that legally belong to me, he buys for $600,000. The remaining 20% belong to you. You can sell them to him for $350,000 or keep them and remain a minority shareholder. Andrew couldn't believe his ears. You made a deal with Ian without me. I am a businesswoman, Sarah shrugged. Or have you forgotten that I managed a beauty salon before the marriage? I can negotiate and calculate. She leaned toward him. You thought I was a little housewife who can do nothing but cook pot roast and wash socks. But I sacrificed my career for yours. Not because I wasn't capable of anything better. Andrew felt everything inside him turning upside down. That means I lose the company. You don't lose it. Only your share becomes insignificant. 20%. You will no longer have voting rights. Ian becomes the full owner, and you are just an employed manager receiving dividends. Dr. Wagner chimed in. This is absolutely legal. Mrs. Roth is entitled to half of your share since the business was built during the marriage, and the repurchase of the remaining shares by Mr. Schultz is a voluntary transaction. Andrew grabbed his head. But I put my whole life into this company. I built it from the ground up, worked 16 hours a day. Yes, nodded Sarah. And I worked 24 hours a day without weekends, without vacations. Raised our daughter, managed the household, cooked, washed, cleaned. Drove to parent-teacher conferences, sat up at night when Kate was sick. All the while you were building your career. She paused. And I endured your affairs, one after another, for 20 years. Smiled at your friends when they came to visit and looked at me with pity because they knew you were cheating on me. Pretended to believe your stories about grandchildren, business trips, and night shifts. Her voice trembled. Can you imagine what it's like to wake up every day next to a person who lies to your face, who smells of foreign perfume, but swears eternal love to you? Andrew didn't know what to answer. Sarah stood up and went to the window. Outside, an ordinary gray day began. Cars, people living. Do you know what I understood in these months? She asked without turning around. That I lost myself. Somewhere between diapers and cooking pots, between your affairs and my silence, I stopped being Sarah. I became only Andrew's wife, a function, an appendage to your life. She turned around. And now I want to claim myself back, and for that, I must get rid of you. Andrew felt something inside him break, finally and irrevocably. Sarah, he whispered, is nothing left after 22 years? No love, no connection. Sarah thought. A long minute of silence reigned in the office. There is something left, she said finally. But it is the love for the Sarah I was before I met you, and I want her back. She returned to the table and took the documents. Dr. Wagner, let us conclude the formalities. I have another appointment. The lawyer nodded and pushed the contract toward Andrew. You must sign your consent to the asset division and the sale of the company shares. If you refuse, the matter goes to court. But I warn you, with such evidence of infidelity, the court will stand on Mrs. Roth's side, and then you could lose even more. Andrew took the pen, his hand shaking so much he could barely hold it. And if I sign, what is left for me? Dr. Wagner opened the calculator on his phone. Let's calculate. You receive 30% of the house value after the sale. That is approximately $270,000. The VW Tiguan goes to you, $33,000. The vacation home is split equally, but Mrs. Roth is willing to leave it to you entirely in exchange for other assets. That is another $220,000. 20% of the company shares, which you can sell to Mr. Schultz for $350,000, plus half the savings, $160,000. He looked up. In total about $1,033,000, minus the support you have to pay for 3 years. That is roughly another $200,000 for the entire period if your income remains the same. Andrew closed his eyes. Roughly $830,000. It sounded like a lot, but in reality, it was a collapse, for he lost his home, his family, control over his business. He lost everything he had built for 20 years. And when does all this take effect? He asked. As soon as you sign, answered the lawyer. The divorce will be finalized within a month. The assets will be divided 2 months after the house sale. The deal with Mr. Schultz within a week. Andrew looked at Sarah. That is everything. 22 years and everything is over. Just like that. Sarah shook her head. Not just like that. You chose this path yourself. Every time you lied, every time you cheated, every time you thought I wouldn't notice. She placed her hand on the stack of documents. I gave you 22 years. You wasted them. Now it's my turn. Andrew took the pen and signed. 1 page, the second, the third. With every signature, he felt his life slipping through his fingers. When the last document was signed, Dr. Wagner collected the papers in the folder. Thank you. The copies will be ready tomorrow. I will contact both of you. Sarah stood up and shook the lawyer's hand. Thank you, Dr. Wagner. You helped me a lot. She took her bag and went to the door. Sarah, wait, Andrew called after her. She paused but did not turn around. What happens next? Next, you live your life, she answered. And I live mine without you. But we are still married for a month. Formally. But you move out today. I have already rented a 1-bedroom apartment for you on the outskirts of town, paid for 2 months. I will send the address to your phone. Andrew blinked. You already rented an apartment? A week ago, nodded Sarah. I knew you would sign because you have no choice. She opened the door. Goodbye, Andrew. And she walked out. Andrew remained sitting in the lawyer's office alone, completely empty. Dr. Wagner cleared his throat discreetly. Young man, do you need help? Andrew shook his head and stood up. His knees were weak, but he forced himself to walk. When he left the building, he took out his phone and dialed Chloe's number. The subscriber is currently unavailable. He dialed again. The subscriber is currently unavailable. He tried to send her a message via messenger. Chloe, I'm sorry, I have to explain. Please call me. The message was not delivered. He was blocked. Andrew sat down on a bench in front of the building and buried his face in his hands. For the first time in many years, he cried. When he arrived home, or rather, at what used to be his home, Sarah had already packed his things. 3 large bags stood in the hallway. I'll send the rest later, she said without looking up from her phone. Take this for now. Andrew looked at the bags. His whole life fit into 3 bags. Sarah, can I see Kate? Sarah finally raised her gaze. She doesn't want to see you. But she is my daughter. She is an adult woman and makes her own decisions. If she wants to, she will contact you. Andrew nodded. His throat was so tight he couldn't speak. He took the bags and went to the door. Andrew, Sarah called after him. He turned around. In her eyes, he saw something resembling regret for the first time that morning. Do you know what I am most sorry about? Andrew remained silent. That you never understood. I really loved you, but you broke that into 1,000 shards, and now it is impossible to put them back together. She turned away. Lock the door when you leave. Andrew went out and locked the door. Quietly, carefully, as one closes the door to a past that will never return. He got into the car and drove to the address Sarah had sent him. A 1-bedroom apartment on the outskirts, an old concrete apartment block, 9th floor. The elevator didn't work. When he had dragged the bags upstairs and opened the door, emptiness welcomed him. Bare walls, an old sofa, a table, a chair. The refrigerator was empty. No warmth, no coziness. Andrew threw the bags on the floor and dropped onto the sofa. His phone vibrated. A message from Ian. Andrew, we need to talk. Come to the office immediately. Andrew looked at his watch. 4:30 in the afternoon. He hadn't slept for over 24 hours. He was drained, empty, shattered. But Ian, that was business, and business tolerated no weakness. He washed his face with cold water, changed, and drove to the office. Ian met him at the entrance. His face was grim, arms crossed over his chest. Come in. They went into the office. Ian locked the door and sat opposite him. Do you realize what you have done? Andrew blinked. What do you mean? That your wife is buying up your share of the company, shouted Ian. Did you think it all while you were cheating on her left and right? Ian, that is private. Private? Ian slammed his fist on the table. It becomes my business when the business is endangered. Do you realize what could have happened if she hadn't offered to sell me your shares? If she had gone to court and demanded her share, we would have had an outsider as a shareholder. A woman who knows nothing about logistics. Andrew gritted his teeth. Sarah is not stupid. She would have learned the ropes. That is the problem. Ian stood up and began pacing the office. She is too smart. She thought everything through. She knew that I wanted nothing to do with her and would buy up the shares. She cornered me. He stopped and looked directly at Andrew. And do you know what the worst part is? She is right. You completely messed up, and now I am forced to save the business from your mistakes. He literally signed his entire life away in a few minutes. Looking back at everything he did, was this justice or just cold-blooded revenge? Tell me your thoughts below. Andrew felt anger rising in him. That means you're on her side. I am on the side of the business, retorted Ian sharply. Always have been and always will be. And you turned your private life into a circus, and that is now affecting the company. He sat down again. Listen to me closely. I am buying your share completely. For $350,000. Exactly as calculated. But we are partners, Andrew objected. Years together. We're partners, said Ian coldly. Now you are a liability. You don't have your life under control, and whoever doesn't control his private life cannot control a business. Andrew jumped up. Screw you. I built this company myself. I worked my fingers to the bone while I what? Interrupted Ian calmly. While I was at home with my family. While I wasn't running around with mistresses. While I didn't put everything we built at risk. He stood up and stepped close to Andrew. Your wife is smarter than you. She thought everything through. She left you a choice. Either you sell me the shares voluntarily and get money, or she takes half through the court and I buy the rest anyway for a rock-bottom price, because a minority share of 20% is useful to no one. Andrew backed away. You colluded with her. Ian smiled sneeringly. She called me a month ago, described the whole situation to me, proposed a deal. I agreed because it is advantageous for me and for her. You are the only one who lost, and you are solely to blame. He returned to the desk and pulled out the contract. Sign. $350,000. You receive the money in a week, and then don't show up here anymore. You are fired. Andrew froze. Fired? but I am the CEO. We're not a DN. Now you are nobody. Your position is eliminated. I will hire a new, competent employee without private problems. Andrew felt his world finally collapsing. In a single day, he had lost his wife, his daughter, his mistress, his business, and his job. He took the pen and signed the contract, left the office on shaky legs, got into his car, and started the engine. Only then did he realize he had nowhere to drive to. His home didn't exist anymore. His family was gone. The job was gone. There was only an empty one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts and the money he would receive in a week. Andrew laid his head on the steering wheel and closed his eyes. And in his head, Sarah's voice echoed, "You are getting exactly what you deserve." 3 weeks passed. Andrew sat in the same one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts and looked out the window. Outside it drizzled, gray, dull, endless. The money from the sale of the company share had arrived a week ago. $350,000, a fraction of its value, and it brought him no relief, for it was money for everything, for 20 years of work, for dreams, for a life that had fallen into rubble. He hardly left the apartment, ordered food, stared at the ceiling, tried to understand how it could come to this. The phone lay silent, empty on the table. Chloe had not unblocked him. He had tried to write to her from other numbers, but she didn't answer. Once he drove to her house and waited 3 hours. She didn't come out, or she had seen him and simply didn't want to. Kate was silent too. He wrote her short messages every day. "My little one, I am sorry. I need to talk to you. Kate, I know that I am guilty. Give me a chance to explain myself. Kate, you're my daughter. I love you." She read the messages. He saw the blue checks, but she didn't answer. And Sarah? Sarah was like a ghost. She didn't call, didn't write. The divorce took its course. The lawyers sent documents. Andrew signed them mechanically. The house was sold for $800,000. Andrew received $240,000. Sarah took the rest. He tried to find work, applied for positions, but as soon as potential employers learned that he had been fired from his own company, interest waned. In the business world, everything had become known quickly. Rumors spread like a virus. Have you heard about Andrew? Cheated on his wife for 20 years. His wife took him to the cleaners and kicked him out. Ian took over the company. They say he is a nobody now. Nobody. This word haunted him. Andrew stood up, went to the mirror, and looked at himself. In 3 weeks, he had aged 10 years. The gray strands at his temples had become denser. Dark circles under his eyes, a stubble of several days. Who is this man? He didn't recognize himself. The phone rang. Andrew flinched and grabbed it. Unknown number. "Yes," he answered hoarsely. "Mr. Roth, this is Mrs. Klein from the Property Management Company. I am calling you regarding an apartment that will become free in a week. The rent your ex-wife paid for you is expiring. Do you plan to extend the lease?" Andrew looked around. Bare walls, an old sofa. Emptiness. "No," he said, "I am moving out." "Good, then I ask you to vacate the apartment by the 1st. "Understood." She hung up. Andrew put the phone on the table and looked out the window again. Where should he rent another apartment now? With what? From this money that was dwindling like snow because he had to pay for food, the lawyer, the utilities, and Sarah's support. He opened the calculator on his phone. $350,000 from the sale of the share, $240,000 from the house, $160,000 from savings. The VW Tiguan was worth $33,000, the vacation home $220,000, but he still had to sell that. In total, about $1 million. It sounded like wealth, but minus the support. 20% of income for 3 years. If he assumed that he wasn't working at the moment, he wouldn't have to deduct anything from that. But as soon as he found a job, it would be deducted. Minus the taxes on the real estate sale, minus the rent until he found a permanent apartment, minus the cost of living. And most importantly, this money didn't give back what he had lost. His family, his home, his respect, himself. The phone vibrated again. A message from Sarah. Andrew froze. It was the first message from her in 3 weeks. He opened it with trembling fingers. "Andrew, tomorrow at 10 in the morning. Notary office on Schiller Street 7. We have to have the final divorce documents notarized. If you are late, I will sign without you. This is our last meeting. Short, businesslike, emotionless. Last meeting. Andrew read the message several times, then typed an answer. Sarah, I need to talk to you personally, please. He sent it. 1 minute passed. 2. No answer. He wrote once more, I know that I am to blame. I know that I deserve no forgiveness, but give me at least a chance to explain. Again silence. After 10 minutes, the answer came, tomorrow at 10 in Theme AM business only. That was it. Andrew put the phone away and closed his eyes. Tomorrow he would see her for the last time, and that would be the end. On the morning of the next day, Andrew got up at 7, showered, shaved, put on the suit, the same gray one Sarah had given him for his 45th birthday. It was still hanging in the closet of the apartment where he was now temporarily living. He looked at himself in the mirror and tried to find the words. What should he say to her? How should he explain it? I am sorry, that was too little. I loved you, that was a lie. Because if he had loved her, he wouldn't have been unfaithful. Give me another chance. That was selfishness, because he didn't deserve a second chance. What then? He found no answer. At 9:30, he left the apartment and drove to Schiller Street. The notary office was located in an old building with high ceilings and creaking parquet floors. Andrew went to the second floor and saw Sarah. She was sitting on a sofa in the hallway reading something on her phone. She wore a simple black dress. Her hair was pinned up, no makeup. She looked calm, focused, and beautiful. Andrew froze. He had forgotten how beautiful she was. When was the last time he had looked at her like that? Simply looked, without thinking about work, without being in a rush, without being distracted by his phone. Sarah looked up and saw him. You came, she said quietly. Good, the notary is waiting. Sarah, wait. Andrews stepped toward her. Let's talk. 5 minutes. Only 5 minutes. She looked at her watch. We still have 10 minutes until the appointment. Talk. Andrews sat down next to her, not too close. He feared she would turn away. I want to tell you, he began and stumbled over the words. I want you to know that I understood. I understood everything. Sarah remained silent, waiting. I was an egoist. I thought only of myself, of my desires, of my comfort. I didn't think of you, how much it hurt you, how you endured it, how you remained silent to save the family. He swallowed. His throat was tight. I destroyed everything myself, and now I stand before nothing, without you, without Kate, without a home, without work. I lost everything important and realized that the most important thing was you. Sarah listened. Her face remained impenetrable. Sarah, I am not asking you to come back. I understand that is impossible, but please forgive me at least in your heart, so that you can live on without this burden. The burden of hate for me. Sarah smiled sadly. I don't hate you, Andrew. Hate arises when a person is important, but you are no longer important. These words hit him harder than any insult. I am no longer important, he repeated. Understood. Sarah stood up. Come, it is time. They entered the notary's office. A woman around 50, stern with glasses, nodded to them. Take a seat, Mrs. Roth. Mr. Roth, I have prepared the documents for the dissolution of your marriage. You need to sign here, here, and here. She pointed to the lines. Andrew took the pen, looked at the document. The marriage between Sarah Roth and Andrew Roth is considered dissolved with the signing of this agreement. 22 years, a stroke of a pen. He signed. Sarah signed next, quickly, without hesitation. Done, said the notary. You are now officially divorced. You will receive the divorce certificate in a week. Sarah stood up. Thank you. She took her bag and went to the exit. Andrew caught up with her at the stairs. Sarah, wait. She stopped but didn't turn around. How are you? How is Kate? Sarah paused, turned around. I am fine, Kate too. We are moving on. And can I see my daughter? Sarah thought. That isn't up to me. She is an adult. If she wants, she will contact you. But she isn't answering my messages because she needs time. You destroyed her image of a father, of family, of love. Give her time to process that. Andrew nodded. Good, I'll wait. Sarah took a step down the stairs, but Andrew called her again. Sarah, one last question. Are you happy? Sarah looked back. She thought. A shadow of sadness and relief crossed her face. Not yet, she answered, but I will be, because now I am free. Free from lies, from pain, from you. She went down the stairs and left the building. Andrew remained standing on the stairs. Free from him. He understood. He wasn't just a cheater. He had been a prison in which she had lived for 22 years. 2 more months passed. Andrews sold the vacation home for $180,000. The real estate market had collapsed. He had to lower the price. He rented a small 2-bedroom apartment in a residential area. He bought simple furniture. The furnishing was Spartan, but it was his home. Temporary, until he decided what to do next. He still hadn't found a job. He tried to start his own consulting firm for logistics, but clients stayed away. His reputation was ruined. The money was dwindling. He began to understand what it meant to live alone. Not in the sense of being without a wife, but alone. Before, even when he was cheating, even when he lied, he was always expected at home. A warm dinner, a clean shirt. Kate telling him about her day. Sarah asking how his day was. He had taken that for granted. And now he came into an empty apartment. No one asked how he was. No one cooked dinner. He ordered food or heated up ready-made meals, ate alone, watched TV, went to bed, and woke up again in emptiness. One day, he met Ian by chance in a shopping center. Ian was out with his wife and son. They were laughing, discussing something. A happy family. Ian saw Andrew and nodded, dryly, without warmth. Andrew. Ian, answered Andrew. How's it going? Excellent. The business is growing. We hired a new CEO, a capable man. I am happy for you. Silence ensued. Well, good luck, said Ian and walked on. Andrew watched him go. Ian hugged his wife. The son was saying something and waving his hands. They were together, and he was alone. Another month later, Andrew saw Chloe. He was walking down the street and happened to glance at a window. She was sitting in a cafe by the window, not alone. Next to her sat a man, tall, fit, her age. They were drinking coffee and laughing. Chloe looked happy. Andrew stopped and looked at her through the glass. She didn't notice him, was too engrossed in the conversation. The man took her hand, she smiled. Andrew turned around and walked away. She too lived on without him. Everyone lived on without him. In the evening of the same day, his phone vibrated. A message from Kate. Andrew froze. His heart beat so violently it rushed in his ears. He opened the message. Dad, I need time, lots of time, to forgive, to understand. I don't know if I ever can, but I want you to know I don't hate you. I am just very disappointed. You were a role model for me and turned out to be just an ordinary human. Weak, selfish. It hurts me. It hurts Mom, but we are coping. And you? Are you coping? Andrew read the message 3 times. Tears blurred his eyes. He typed an answer. Kate, I am not coping, but I am trying. I understand that I disappointed you. That is the worst of everything I did. Not the betrayal of your mother, but that I lost your trust. You are the most important thing in my life. And if I need my whole life to earn your forgiveness, I will spend it on that. I love you. Have always loved you and always will. He sent the message. After a minute, the answer came. Good, let's try. But slowly. Very slowly. Andrew pressed the phone to his chest and wept. That was the first ray of light. A year passed. Andrew found work, not as prestigious as before, not as CEO, but as a simple logistics manager in a small company. His salary was 3 times lower than before, but it was work, stability, purpose. He began seeing a psychologist. A woman around 40, calm, attentive, who helped him understand why he did what he did, why he cheated, why he lied, why he didn't appreciate what he had. You are looking for validation, said the psychologist. Validation that you are still young, attractive, and desired. You are afraid of age, afraid of routine, afraid that life is passing you by, and try to catch up through new relationships. But I loved my wife, Andrew objected. Loved or got used to her? Asked the psychologist. Love is not just a feeling, it is also a decision every day. You didn't decide for her. You decided for yourself. These words stuck in his head. He had always decided for himself. He met with Kate once a month. They went to a cafe, talked. At first, it was awkward, difficult. She looked at him suspiciously, but gradually the ice thawed. "You have changed," she said one day. "What do you mean?" "You have become real. Before, you always played the role of the successful businessman, the ideal father, the caring husband, but in truth, you were empty. Now you aren't playing anymore." Andrew nodded. "I have nothing left to play. Only the truth is left." "And how does that feel?" "Heavy, but honest." Kate smiled for the first time in a long time. "That is good, Dad." He learned about Sarah only in fragments through Kate. Sarah had opened her own business, a beauty salon, small but successful. She was working again, was independent again, free. She was seeing someone. Kate didn't say with whom, but from her tone, Andrew noticed her mother was happy, and that was right. One day, a year and a half after the divorce, Andrew saw Sarah by chance on the street. She was walking with a man, short, sturdy, with glasses. They were talking about something. The man said something. Sarah laughed. Andrew stopped, hid behind a corner of a building, and watched. Sarah looked young, happy. She had a new haircut, a bright coat. She radiated. The man took her arm. She didn't recoil, snuggled closer to him, and in that moment Andrew understood that he had lost her forever, finally. She had found someone who appreciated her, who wouldn't lie to her, who would decide for her every day. And he remained alone with the burden of guilt and regret. He turned around and walked away, not because it hurt, but because she deserved this happiness and he deserved to be the witness watching from the outside. 2 years passed. Andrew sat in his small, modest, but cozy apartment. He had furnished it during this time, hung pictures, bought normal furniture, even got a cat, a red, mischievous tomcat that slept on his bed and woke him up in the mornings. Work went steadily. He wasn't making a career, he simply worked honestly and conscientiously. He met with Kate regularly every 2 weeks. Sometimes she brought her girlfriend. Yes, her girlfriend. Kate confessed that she was lesbian. Andrew accepted it without judgment. He was simply glad she had found love. "Main thing is she appreciates you," he said. "She appreciates me, Dad. She tells me every day how much she loves me." "Then hold on to her. Don't let her go. Don't repeat my mistakes." Kate squeezed his hand. "I won't." He paid Sarah's support punctually. Another year, then the term would end. He didn't ask for a deferral. He didn't complain. It was his obligation, his debt. He still thought of her. Sometimes. Not every day, but sometimes. He remembered how young they were, how they dreamed of the future, how they built the house, how they waited for Kate, how he had destroyed everything. One evening Kate called him. "Dad, I have news." "What is it?" asked Andrew, alarmed. "Mom is getting married." Andrew froze. The phone almost slipped from his hand. "Getting married?" "Yes." "David, remember him?" "I told you about him." "I remember." "The wedding is in a month, just a small ceremony." Andrew swallowed. "Will you go?" "Of course." "That is good. I am happy for her." And that was the truth. He was really happy, for Sarah deserved true love. "Dad," asked Kate cautiously, "are you okay with it?" Andrew looked out the window. It was already getting dark. The city lights came on. Life went on. "I am okay. I have long since come to terms with it, Kate. Your mother made the right choice. She chose herself, her happiness. And I am proud of her. She was strong, stronger than I could have ever imagined." Kate was silent. "Dad, and you? Are you seeing someone?" Andrew smiled. "No, and I don't plan to for the time being." "Why?" "Because one must first learn to be honest with oneself before one can be honest with someone else." "I am still learning." "You are great, Dad. Really. Thank you, my little one." They said goodbye. Andrew put the phone away and stroked the cat, who immediately purred. "Well, Red," said Andrew quietly, "looks like you are what's left for me." The cat rubbed its head against his hand. Andrews smiled sadly, but without bitterness. He had lost everything, but found something, himself. The real one, not the ideal one, not the successful one, not the one he pretended to be, but the one he really was. A man who made mistakes, paid for them, and is learning to live on. And that was a beginning, not an end. A month later, Andrew learned from Kate that Sarah's wedding had gone wonderfully. Kate showed him photos. Sarah in a simple, elegant white dress. David next to her. They looked at each other with such love that Andrew's heart warmed. She had found her happiness, and he was still looking for his. But now he knew that happiness lay not in another woman, not in a new love, not in money or success. Happiness lay in being honest with oneself and others, in appreciating what one has before it is too late, in choosing love anew every day and not looking for it elsewhere. He had understood it too late, but he had understood it. And now, when he looked at his reflection, he saw no successful businessman, no lover, no man who was always right. He saw a man who had made mistakes, acknowledged and accepted them, and that was liberation. Life went on. For Sarah bright, happy, full of love. For Kate meaningful and honest. For him quiet, modest, but his own. He was no longer the center of someone else's universe, not the main character. He was simply a man learning to live correctly. And that was enough. Moral of the story: infidelity is not just a betrayal of the body, it is a betrayal of trust, of time, of the life another person has given you. You may think you have the situation under control, that your wife won't find out, that the family won't break apart, that you are smart enough to play on two fronts. But the truth is that sooner or later, everything comes to light, always. And when that happens, you lose not only your family, you lose yourself, the person you could have been if you had made the right decisions. A woman who has endured for years, whom you considered weak and naive, can be stronger than you could ever imagine. She can wait, plan, prepare, and when the time is right, strike so precisely that you can't even blink. But it is not about revenge. It is about justice. It is about everyone getting what they deserve. If you have cheated, betrayed, and exploited for years, you will get emptiness, loneliness. The realization that everything that seemed important was in truth an illusion. If you were honest, patient, and strong, you get freedom, a new life, a chance for a new beginning. And the most important thing, love is not a feeling, it is a decision. Every single day, you can fall in love with 100 people. But to love, truly love, you can only love the one you want, again and again, despite routine, despite everyday life, despite temptation. And if you don't make this choice, you don't love. You only exploit, and one day the one you exploited will leave forever, and you will be left with what you deserve, with emptiness. Appreciate the people around you. Don't wait until it is too late, because too late always comes unexpectedly, and then there is nothing left to fix. We've listened to this strong woman's story, together. I'm grateful to her for sharing her courage with us. So, what do you think? If you were in her place, could you make these difficult decisions? Share your thoughts with me in the comments. I read each one and try to respond. Thank you for being here with me. See you in the next story.
Thank you for listening to this story until the end. Hopefully every moment in the story has touched your heart, brought you some reflection, some emotion, and hope. Thank you for taking the time to experience it with us, and hope that each next story will always accompany you on your life journey.